create online teaching platform using free software tools. My name is Aman. Happy to present to you this webinar from Singapore. I'm not an expert. I'm a learner. I'm learning and teaching for the past 34 years. I'll be sharing with you today my teaching experience with online teaching platforms. Let's take a look at our disclaimer. COVID-19 is affecting all of us. If you are a parent or a teacher or anyone who needs to communicate online with another person, our free webinar may help you. We will try to cover three main concepts today: virtual classroom, sharing documents, and how do we create a simple assessment quiz. First part on the virtual classroom. So when we talk about virtual classroom, what is actually the definition? First of all, what is the definition for a virtual classroom? It's a classroom that happening online for teachers and students to engage in learning activities. So we try to replicate as close as possible to a physical classroom in an online classroom. So when we want to do that, we need some tools. So what are the necessary tools we needed for online teaching? Number one, we need an audio. So definitely almost all classrooms would have an audio feature. So when you want to communicate to your students through a laptop audio, you can either use the built-in microphone or you can use any other corded microphone or cordless microphone. So test and find out which is suitable for your scenario and use such a microphone to communicate with your students. The second feature is video. So when we want to create an online teaching platform with the students, we are not in front of the student physically, but rather we communicate to the students with a video presentation. So when we do in a video presentation from a laptop, almost every laptop has got a built-in camera that is facing you. So when you present your image, your presentation, your actions are shown to the students. But if you want to show an experiment to the student or a demo to a student, like how do you fix certain equipments, or a small experiment in the lab, you can mount webcam stand. So when you do that, now you have two different webcams attached. One is a built-in webcam and the second one is the web camera which is attached to the stand. So your virtual classroom platform should be able to switch easily between these two cameras. So anytime you want to communicate to students, you can use the laptop camera which is facing you. Anytime you want to demo to student, you can switch to the camera that you have fixed on a stand. Number 3. Need to have a whiteboard. If you want to draw something or to display an image, the whiteboard is necessary in the virtual classroom. You can also ask a student to draw something on the whiteboard, of course, with your permission, so that you can really check the student understanding about a concept. Nowadays, almost all virtual whiteboard softwares are multi-user. Multi-user means many people can collaborate at the same time. Number 4. Screen sharing. What is screen sharing? Like what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now in this webinar. I'm not showing my face, but rather I'm showing the important content to you. Usually as a teaching professional, your content would be in a PowerPoint slides. You don't want to pass original PowerPoint slides to your students. That is your individual property. Other people may get hold of it and they may use it as their own documents. So rather you want to present this one to your students. So screen sharing is necessary. Whatever you present in your laptop, all the students who joined your virtual classroom would be able to see that presentation, including your pictures, your animation, and whatever you have in your PowerPoint slides. This is also useful for people who teach information technology. You want to do a software demonstration. For example, how to do or how to prepare a simple invoicing calculation in Excel. You could just prepare it and your participants from the other side would be able to see whatever you do on your laptop. So screen sharing is another essential feature of virtual classroom. And the 5th one, breakout rooms. Imagine your classroom has got 30 students and you want to give them small group activity. You want to divide the class into 10 different groups. Each group would have 3 students. They would be focusing on a single activity. They would be discussing among themselves virtually. So one group discussion will not affect the next group. So the next group won't be able to see what this group is doing. So this kind of feature is known as breakout rooms. But as a teacher, you will be able to go into every one of these breakout rooms, discuss with them, tell them the ideas, see how do they learn, and so on. So breakout rooms is another essential feature. And the last one that I would say is a text chat feature. So while we conduct classes, sometimes some student has got a doubt. He doesn't want to interrupt the flow of the class. Is he or she able to communicate with you? Possible. If you have a chat feature, you can type a short message and you can reply back to him. Similarly, when the students are doing breakout rooms, you want them to join to the common room again. you can send a group text to all the students. So these are the features I considered necessary for a virtual classroom. But nowadays, virtual classrooms got a lot of features. Find out which one is useful for you and then you make use of it. When we talk about virtual classroom, nowadays the main concern for teachers or anyone is security of my online meeting. Sometimes some uninvited people come to my online meeting and then disturbing the class. How can I avoid this? Even before the COVID-19, I am doing classes virtually. So I will share it with you, the techniques that I follow to keep my class secure. Number one, I always create a new meeting ID for every lesson that I do. Although you can set up the same meeting ID for all the lessons for that particular class, I don't do that. I take trouble to create a new meeting ID for every lesson, and I do not put that on social network. I will share the ID and password to the relevant student just before the day of the class. So this is to keep it much more secure also. You enable a waiting room in your virtual classroom software. Waiting room is known as a lounge. So you don't allow students to join the meeting before the teacher. You are the host. You go to the room first and then you check the students in the waiting room. You can also make it like an attendance marking at this time. Check every student and then allow them inside your meeting room. If there are unwanted people, you can remove them from the waiting room. The moment my class starts, or even before my class starts, I will lock my meeting room. When I lock the meeting room, no one else can join. So if due to technical difficulties, if any of my students kicked out of my virtual classroom, they know how to communicate to me. So if they tell me that, I unlock the meeting room for a while, I let them unlock it again. It's a bit troublesome, but more helpful from the security point of view. Another feature that you have to consider for security is you allow screen sharing only for you as a teacher. You disable screen sharing for all the students by default. So accidentally, if any student click on a screen sharing, nothing would be shown to them. In fact, screen sharing is not even available to them when you disable. In this way, you keep the classroom more secure. By default, you mute the student's audio, meaning every student microphone is muted. When I want some of my students to answer a question that I pose, I will call them by name. Hey John, could you please answer question 1? Then John will unmute his microphone, tell his answer, then he will mute it back. So this kind of setup, if you do it with your classroom, you can increase the security of your classroom. Do practice on it and then find out which are the items that works for you, implement it accordingly. These are the items that are working very well for my classroom. The next question from my friends is, Aman, when I'm doing virtual software search on the internet, there are so many softwares available. How to choose? And which is a good software? I'm not going to recommend any particular software to you, but rather going to give you a simple step so that you can choose yourself which software is suitable for your scenario. Number one, the pricing model for the softwares fall into three categories generally. Paid software, meaning you pay some money to use the software, usually monthly or yearly subscription. The second pricing model is freemium, not premium, but rather freemium, meaning basic features are available to you free of charge, but if you want advanced feature, you have to pay for a subscription. Third one is open source, meaning completely free. So first thing, you consider which pricing model you are more comfortable. Almost every software available in the market will give you a trial version or allow you to try for few days or weeks. Try it first, experience them, then you will know which is suitable for you. In addition to pricing models, let's say you consider a freemium model suitable for you. Then you have to see how many students do they allow in one classroom. If they allow only 10 students, but you have 30 students in a class, no. So definitely that is not suitable for your classroom because you have more students. So you have to consider the number of students concurrently can join your classroom. Second, stability of the software. So when you use the software, you will know how stable it is. Is the audio and video here? But of course, with the internet, there will be definitely some breaks here and there. But is the breaks or very little, or is the break is very lot? Is the software hang quite often? You have to consider all these things. They all comes under stability. Third one, features. I've shown you about 6 different features that I would look for. You also check it in the software. So basically you need to have an audio, video, whiteboard, screen sharing, breakout room, chat feature. In addition to that, if you want anything else, check it whether they are available. So number of students, stability, and the features that are available. And the last one that you have to consider is the ease of use. If the software has got plenty of steps for you to perform as a teacher, then you'd be focusing more on doing those steps rather than your teaching. So the software must be easy to use for people. So ease of use is really important. Pricing model, number of students they allow concurrently in one classroom, stability of the software, what are the features they have, and is it user friendly? So you have to explore, you have to try out so many softwares or few softwares and so on. Then you will really know, hey, A is suitable for me. No, only software C is suitable for me, or B is suitable for me, and so on. So you can decide, and then you can use that particular virtual classroom software for your class. So let's proceed now to the next part. If I have a virtual classroom, is it enough for me to conduct online classes? No. You definitely need more than a virtual classroom. You may be thinking, what do I need? I already have a virtual classroom that replicates my classes. Almost everything I do in my physical class. If the virtual classroom have, what do I need more? I don't need anything else. Think of this. You want students to do some assignments. You want to give them a pre-class material for them to read before they come for your class, or a post-class activity. So when they come to your physical class, you will tell them, hey, before the next lecture, read these chapters, and so on. But when you want to give them resources through virtual classroom, people are thinking that I can send the students an email. Yeah, I agree. You can send 30 emails to all the students, each student one. But what if you make changes in your resources? So learning material is always a live document. It is not you prepare once and you use it for years. You will have to modify it. So when you make changes, if you consider, I can put another email, don't do that. You will tend to clog the email system. Imagine if there are 100 lecturers in an institution and everybody daily keep on sending email to the student. Imagine to the load to the email system. So how to do it? You need a website. When we say a website, most of them say, oh, creating website is very tough. There are so many technicalities I have to go through and so on. Let me show you a simpler solution. How you can create a website easily within a day or two. Let's take a look. This is the second part that shows you how can you share documents with your students and what are the things we need, what are the things that we have to look out for when we want to share documents to the student. We are going to use Google Sites. Google Sites has got a newer version that we are going to use to create a simple classroom website. Why Google Site? Why not some other things? Number one, Google Site is cloud-based, meaning you don't have to download anything, you don't have to install anything. To make use of Google Site, you just need a Gmail ID or Google ID, which is free. You don't have, you can register one. So almost everybody, every internet user would have a Gmail ID. And then a laptop or a desktop plus an internet browser. That means an internet connection. Only 3 items. Gmail ID, which is free, an equipment, you should have it, and an internet connection. With this, you will be able to create Google Sites. How much is the capacity? Google Sites provide 15 GB of storage. That is good enough for most of the classroom websites to put all their documents in the Google Sites. Having considered all these things, the biggest question comes, is there any payment involved? No payment. Absolutely free of charge. For anybody who got a Gmail ID, they would get their own Google site with 15 GB of storage space. I am doing 3 different courses, course A, course B and course C. I am teaching 3 different years. Can I have 3 different sites? Sure, you can have as many sites as you want to. No problem on the number of sites that you can host it. The total capacity must be 15 GB of all the sites combined together. What other thing I can do with Google Sites? Number 1, we can put any text. Text means you can create it, type it directly from the keyboard. If you already have in Microsoft Word a lot of documents, you can just copy paste and save trouble of retyping. From any software, you can simply select, copy, and then you can paste it. You can have images. Remember, when you want to put images, the image, you must have the copyright. You can put only your own image. Don't copy any image from internet and then put down there. Same thing applicable for text also. When you create website, always respect the copyright law. Videos could be the video that you create with your mobile phone, or a video that you have already created, uploaded to YouTube. You can have it. You can link onto any other website or your own email ID and so on. So you can put almost all type of digital content in there. Number 2, you don't have to take trouble to design a website with a very good look and feel. Google site already got a number of themes you can use. You just choose themes, it will give you the designer outlook automatically. You don't have to take trouble to format it. This is the biggest advantage. As teachers, we are all content experts. We are not design experts. We don't want it to be. We want to develop content very fast and teach very fast. So themes will take the bigger load of designing a website to a very good professional look and feel. You are able to organize pages and sub-pages. What do you mean by page? You can put lessons as one page, and then lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 30 as the sub-pages under the lesson page. You can put assignment as the main page. Inside that, you can have the sub-pages, assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3 and so on. So in this way, the website would look more neater and student would be able to find out information easily. Pages can be copied, they can be moved, they can be reorganized. I will show you all these things later during our demo session. Number 3, you are able to design and test everything before you publish the website to the student. So this one gives you some kind of comfort. Whatever you do during your testing stage, your student do not see that. You design everything, you test it yourself, everything working according to what it is supposed to. Then finally, once the things are okay, you can publish. Can I make the site secure? Meaning only my student can access the website. Definitely. Google already got a built-in feature for this. Either you can make the site public, meaning anyone can access your website, or you can make the website private. So when you make it private, people with Gmail ID that you allow only would be able to see your website. Other people cannot see your website. It's not possible for other people to go in. So this security is built inside for free. Remember that the site is fully free. The interface is fully free. Last but not the least, the most important, the site is responsive. Most of the time, your student will get a good look of your website. They don't have to zoom down the pages and so on. They would be able to see it clearly. You design once, it displays well across all the devices, desktop, laptop, tablet, smartphone, and so on. That's what we call responsive in technical term. Let's proceed to the next one. So how can I create a Google site? Where is it available? Take a look at the link on the screen. You may want to take a photo or write it down. I will give you a few seconds. Before you go here, log a Gmail ID in your browser. You don't have a Gmail ID? Create one immediately. Let's go to the next one. To the next part. Okay, lessons are created. Now the next part is, how do we do an assessment tool? I taught students, I need to assess them. What are the features available for assessment tool? For assessment tool, we are going to use Google Forms. We are going to use Google Forms. Why Google Form? Number one, it allows you to create MCQ questions very easily. You can simply point to that, type a question, put in the choices, select the correct choice. Let's say there are 4 choices. If the choice A is the correct choice, we can select the correct choice. And the questions can be duplicated easily. So when you want to create a set of questions on algebra, you may want to create one question with 4 different choices, duplicate it 3 times, and you can modify the questions so that all the 4 choices will be applicable to each and every question. So you can. And when students take the quiz, all their answers, I mean their responses, are neatly arranged, neatly collated in a spreadsheet for you. So whenever they type the response, when they submit, the responses are collated for you. Now the biggest question comes. Do you want to mark those quiz manually? If I were you, I don't want to mark it manually. I got a lot of students. If the system can mark it by itself, anyway it's a MCQ. I got the correct answer. The system should be clever enough to mark it. If you can mark it, it avoid me the hassle of going through every quiz and mark it manually. Yes, the system does it for you. You can set automatic marking. You don't have to give every question 1 mark. You can give some question 1 mark, some question 3 marks, some other question 5 marks, depending on the difficulty level. The system will automatically grade it for you. So once the students submit the quiz, they are able to view how many marks they scored in the quiz automatically from the system. They just have to click at a button. They will see their marks and which are the questions they have done correctly, which are the questions they made a mistake. If they made a mistake on a question, the correct answer also shown to them. So in this way, a student can learn it at their own speed, their own time. And the last one, whatever the forms that you create, we can embed it in your Google website. Remember earlier when we talked about it, you got 1 page for lesson and 1 page for assignment. Can I put this quiz on the web so that the student need not go to 2 different places? Yes, it is possible. I am going to show you that, correct, later in the demo session. I'm going to show you how to do that. So whatever I have talked to you so far is not exhaustive. It is not only this is it. There are more to it. You can do a lot more in your online classroom. So being a session of short 2 hours webinar, I just wanted to explain you some important items as well as show you a demo. So I'm using the common feature that I tend to use in my class. But you got plenty of it. Ideas available on the internet. So you do research on the internet for ideas. When you become an online teacher, we can't confine ourselves just to the books that we have it in our library or to the techniques that our teacher used years before. So latest techniques, latest tools are coming up onto the internet almost every day. So make sure that you research on the internet for the ideas. There are so many websites that are allocated only for teachers. Look through them, find out the idea, and then find out which idea is suitable for your class. You may be living in a different country. Your resources may be limited, or your resources, you have plenty of resources. Your student may or may not have access to all the tools that you wanted to show them. So you find out which is the idea that works best for your class under your resources. Maybe you have limited resources and so on. Do check them, which is suitable for your class. You will learn a lot more. For example, if I want to learn swimming, can I learn it from a book, just by reading a book, or just by watching a video? I can't. But of course, I need to read a book or watch a video, or somebody need to demo to me. But at the end of the day, I need to jump onto the pool, need to swim, learn my techniques, make my mistakes, update myself, then I will become a better swimmer. Similarly, when you want to create a digital, don't be afraid. It's very easy. Definitely you can do. You simply have to try it out. Whatever you learned, whatever you watch, you simply have to try out. Take time, slowly explore, and then you will learn a lot more than from this webinar or from watching a demo later. Happy learning and happy teaching. This is about 40 minutes now, 11:40. So what we are going to do now is I'm going to give you a 10 minutes break. 10 minutes break. Grab a cup of coffee, have some break, and I will see you later in another demo session on the same page.